So I'm sure y'all remember back in July or August of 2023 when the song Rich Men North of Richmond came out, Oliver Anthony's viral hit. We haven't seen a song blow up like that before, and we've not seen a song blow up like that after. That was definitely the viral hit of a generation. And that dude immediately became the darling child of Maga, whether he wanted to or not. And I don't know what he's into these days or what he thinks about things these days. But that song definitely did resonate and reach a whole lot of people. And there was even people on my side of the aisle that thought some of my criticisms of the song was a little bit too harsh. And I remember people saying, well, I think you're being a little too hard on it. And they criticized me for criticizing it. But I want to go back and talk about my criticism because I'm not trying to flex here, but I do believe that I had it right all along on this one. And when I say that, here's what I mean. Back then, I said, yeah, the song was catchy, and he had me. I was sitting there listening to it, relating to every word, until he got to the part about, if you're 5'3" and you're 300 pounds, my taxes shouldn't pay for your fudge rounds, or whatever he said. And right there is where he lost me, and right there is where I realized instantly why that it resonated with Maga. When I heard that line, I said, I get it now. I get why this song is viral with them. I get why they're pushing this. Right there, he punched down. And I said back then, I said, you know, if he'd have took an opportunity to swing up instead of down, it would have been a completely different song. And it probably wouldn't have hit like it did. It sure wouldn't have hit like it did with Maga if he'd have said something along the lines of, you know, if you're the richest dude in the world, my tax dollars shouldn't go to the top to buy you a golden toilet. If he'd have said something like that, it would have been a completely different song and would have hit completely different with Maga. And as a matter of fact, they probably wouldn't have liked it as good because they've never been about calling out rich people in power. They've just always been about punching down at poor people because they think that they're the ones that are the root of their problem, because that's what MAGA preaches to them every day. And Republicans have been preaching this long before Donald Trump or Oliver Anthony ever came along. Republicans have preached that it's the poor person underneath you that makes your life harder. As the years rolled on, it went from, it was poor people on food stamps or disabilities or any form of government assistance. It was those people that was your problem, and it was black people that was your problem, and it was immigrants that was taking your job, and it was gay and trans people that was your problem. They could never fathom the idea that a rich man may be taking from everybody and stealing from everybody. That's the one thing. They kept everybody focused on everyone else while they had their hands in the cookie jar. And now Donald Trump, by the way, a rich man north of Richmond, has handed over the keys to the castle to the richest man north of any place in the world. And they're going in and gutting all of these government programs, and MAGA is cheering about this the same way they was cheering for that song, because it's always been about their hatred for poor people. And it's funny to me because so many of them are still struggling, so many of them are still trying to make it in this world, but yet they will always, no matter how hard they struggle in this world, they'll never criticize Elon Musk. They'll never criticize Donald Trump. They'll never think that a rich man is stealing from them. But they'll get pissed off in the line at the gas station if some guy buys a fudge round with an EBT card. And they'll think that guy is the root of all their problems, because that's what they've been taught to believe. But that song going viral and them claiming that it was the rich men north of Richmond, we sat back and watched the inauguration, and we saw the richest men north of anywhere. Like I said, we saw those men standing around Donald Trump, and we saw all the people that were pissed at people having fudge rounds left out in the cold. So I really feel like my criticisms of that song back then was fair. And like I said, I don't know that dude personally. And I said that back then. I said, I don't know this dude personally. I don't know if he meant for this to happen. I don't know if that's the audience he meant to reach. I do remember he did call out the Republicans for playing it at one of the Republican debates. He was like, that's who I was talking about in my song. So again, I never was really throwing shade at that dude as much as I just was the people that latched onto it and the reasons why they clearly latched onto it. Because that's always been a Republican talking point for as long as I can remember, and one that I've just never understood. I've never understood how that working poor people could look around at other working poor people and punch down at them. and not be pissed at the ones that is rigging the game against us. Because I was working in a factory. I just left that job when that song came out. And I knew what it was like to struggle every day to try to put food on the table and figure out where the hell I was going next. And, I was always one moment away. I was one washer or dryer going bad, or one hot water heater going bad, or one tire blowing out on my car away from being bankrupt, literally. It was such a hard time for years. I struggled to get ahead in this world. And I never, ever thought about punching down at the people next to me. It never made sense to me. I never could figure out why that I should be mad because somebody may have needed some assistance to get up, because there was times that I needed it too. Back in the 80s when I was growing up and Ronald Reagan was president, I remember my dad worked 2 jobs, and me and my mom still stood in those cheese lines, and I can still taste that government cheese and that government milk and cereal, the Frosted Flakes that they had. The cheese wasn't too bad, honestly, but that milk, that powdered milk and those Frosted Flakes sucked. And I grew up on that with a dad working 2 jobs and a mom doing part-time when she could to help us scrape by. And she was still saying to me, when you go to school today, make sure that you eat seconds if they offer it, because there ain't going to be a whole lot when you get home. And I guess I was raised up by 2 good people who taught me that punching down at the people next to me wasn't the answer. But the rich men at the top was getting us all fighting amongst ourselves. So again, if that song, he had me. I was sitting there going, yeah, man, yeah, we're all working overtime hours for bullshit pay, and these rich men are taking us all. But then the song took that turn. And when it did, it just resonated with one of the worst talking points that MAGA has ever had and Republicans have ever had. I'm not just going to put it on MAGA. A lot of times, I want to say this, make this point. A lot of times I'll say MAGA, but the Republican Party let this happen. And I'll never fully let them off the hook for none of this. They let this happen, and they preached this stuff for years, and they paved the way for it. Donald Trump may be the most extreme Republican we've ever seen. He may be the most radical Republican that we've ever seen, but MAGA is who paved the way for it. And it started a long time ago. It started before I was ever born. It started, in my mind, it started with Richard Nixon and the Southern Strategy, and it moved on into Ronald Reagan and the moral majority, and George W. Bush helped pave the way. So George W. Bush can eat all the candy he wants to with Michelle Obama, but he still helped pave the way for this madness that we're in today. And these talking points that they've used, punching down at poor people and blaming everyone else for their problems except those rich men north of Richmond, that's always been a Republican talking point, back when even my granddad's was around. That's always been a Republican talking point. And I don't think we'll ever see the toothpaste put back in the tube. I can't see us going back to a more reasonable time, really. I hate to be pessimistic, but I can't see us ever putting the toothpaste back in the tube. But if we were to ever re-elect a reasonable Republican, if there's such a thing, I still feel like we would be battling this type of rhetoric. I still feel like we would be battling this type of thing. They would still be trying to take away anything that helped people. They would still be going after those programs. And right now, that's what they're excited about when it comes to Elon Musk. They're excited about the fact that he's taken these government programs that's going to help people. And they're excited. The people around here, they're excited at the moment until it hits them in the ass. But, I'm never going to let the Republicans off the hook for this, and none of us should. There will be times that you'll hear me agreeing with them. There will be times that you'll hear me agreeing with people like Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger and Dick Cheney of all fucking people. But we should never let the Republican Party as a whole off the hook for the road that they paved. They paved the way for every bit of this. And to anyone out there that, ever says to me, hey, you remember that song, man? You remember that? Remember what a good one that was? I'll be like, yeah. And remember when I said that you didn't give a shit about rich men ruling your lives? You sure as hell didn't.